So what I'm attempting to do is to put embroidery on glass. I'm not doing the embroidery on the glass, I'm putting the embroidery on something and putting that on glass. Now, I thought it would be a real easy thing to do, and it probably would be if I did the embroidery on cloth and glued the cloth to the glass. But I wanted to make it so that you could see through the embroidery, and it would get the effect that it is on the glass. So I colored the inside of a few. The reason I decided to do this was in the course of unpacking, I found some glass ornaments, plain glass ornaments, that I'd used in a craft with the grade school kids when I was teaching art. So I thought, well, let's not let them go to waste. We can use them and I can give them away as Christmas presents. So this particular one, I threw some tissue paper in it and some threads that are left over when you do embroidery. I have a whole bunch of those, and they're nice colors, so I put them inside. I don't know if you can see it very well, but anyway, so I thought I'd do it on water-soluble stabilizer, because you have to embroider on a stabilizer. So I thought I'll put on water-soluble stabilizer, and when I put it down with the glue will dissolve the stabilizer. And even if it doesn't do it completely, the stabilizer itself is water-soluble stabilizer is a glue. Yeah, that didn't work, because the water-soluble stabilizer glue doesn't stick to the glass. And the glue that I was putting down on top of it was actually not dissolving the stabilizer so much as it was gluing the stabilizer to the glass. And so this one has some areas, they're hard to see, where that happened, and you see a little bit more white, and that's the stabilizer that didn't dissolve. So I thought, what can I use as a stabilizer? And I tried using, I thought, well, when I do lace, I do that on net. But net, if I did it on net, you would see the net, and it wouldn't have the same effect that I wanted. And I figured, well, I may not ever get the effect that I want, but I'll, you try things, and if they fail, you try something else until you realize it's impossible, and then maybe you give up, maybe. So I decided that I would use, I thought, well, the other thing that I embroider lace on is chiffon. So I took some chiffon, and I used the chiffon only as the stabilizer. Now I generally, because chiffon is so thin, it doesn't work well as a stabilizer. But I thought for what I was going to use it for, I'd at least try it. And when I use this for lace making, I always put another stabilizer, usually a water-soluble stabilizer underneath it. Though I may not do that in future, because I actually like how this turned out. But anyway, I knew that because chiffon is so thin and there was no stabilizer underneath it, that there are stitches that I wouldn't be able to do on this. One of them being satin stitch, because satin stitch puts a lot of stress on the fabric, and if there's no stabilizer under this, it's not going to work. But I did do a couple pieces just to see if I was correct in that, and yeah, it lived up to my expectations. This is, I don't know if you can see this, but let's see if I can get closer here. This is good enough or not. It seems to be a lot of light. Anyway, these should be really wide, and the one in the center is actually a ball but came out as a line. And so the satin stitch came almost out as a line stitch, and it really pulled the almost to the point of making holes in some places. So I figured that it would happen that way, and it did. And so I figured, well, I can't, and I used to, I wanted to do, like on one of the bulbs, I wanted to do a letter of the alphabet. A friend had a baby, and I wanted to do the letter of the alphabet of the baby's name and the year, this year, so they can put it on their tree. And, you know, every time you have a child, it's a lot of people put a new ornament on their tree every year anyway, until it becomes so overloaded. Anyway, so, but the flowers, these were supposed to be flowers, they came out as circles because, again, it wouldn't do the satin stitch. And the letter came out almost as a line, and so no satin stitch. So I decided, well, what can I use? This is black work. And black work is only pretty much just lines. And this came out really nice. So I thought, well, I can use black work. I probably could use cross stitch. So I tried cross stitch, and yes, the cross stitch came out really nice. These pieces actually look like this. There's a rose in the middle of this. I don't know if you can see it. There's a rose in, let me put the ball underneath it. Might see it better. There's a rose in the middle of this U-shaped design here. And it came out really nice. It didn't distort much. I did have some problems with cross stitch because these are very small cross stitches. Sometimes the needle's working very hard and the thread would shred, and so I had a certain amount of breakage. So and I found a letter A and a cross stitch, so I did that. And then I also tried some lace designs. This lace design is it's just pretty much straight lines. This is a Battenberg lace design, and I figured it would work because, again, real Battenberg is done with tape that you put down, and then you connect the spaces in between the tape with stitches that you make with a needle. But you can make fake Battenberg with a machine embroidery. What it does is it makes the tape by going around and around and around 4 or 5 times, usually 5 or 6 times, and then going across them to make like a weave stitch to make the tape section. But again, it's all straight stitches. So I figured it would work as well because it's not going to have the pull that satin stitches do. So all of them look good. So the next thing is how they will look, and can I get them on the glass? So first thing I want to do is cut all of these out and then see where I want to put them. Now I know that because this is chiffon, I could use soldering iron, lighter, something like that to burn the edges of this and actually melt away the part that sticks out. But because this is so sheer and it's going on glass, I figure that it's going to disappear on the glass anyway. So I'm just going to cut it close, but I'm not cutting it. I don't really care if it's kind of ragged around the edges a little bit, sticking out. Same with I'll trim out as much as I can so I don't have a lot of excess, but I'm not cutting really close in. I don't want to lose the stitches. So, all right, here's the lace one of these lace snowflakes. We'll have to do digitizing design sometime and showing you how to make lace. It's not something I do often. I would rather buy the lace designs than make them. They are time consuming. I'd rather somebody else put the time in. But sometimes you can't get the design you want. Okay, so that's this particular one. Here's the Battenberg lace one. You'll notice the Battenberg lace one is a lot thicker. Again, that's because then this one. Again, that's because the Battenberg lace one goes over it, stitches many times just to give it that tape effect. Let's see. And I have two of these cross stitch rose things. Now to get these to go around, these are flat, and to get them to go around the globe, which is round, I'm going to cut them apart. Because if I put this down the way it is and bend it around, you're going to get puckers. And that probably might work, but I don't need to do it that way because, again, there are two pieces. There's the outline, there's the piece around the outline, and then the rose in the middle. So I can cut them apart and they should lay flatter that way. All right, so I have I have 3 roses. I have 4 roses, 5 roses so far, and I'll have one more, that'll be 6 roses. And then I have this border design. I have 2 of those, 3 of those. I have 4 of those. I'm filming this not knowing whether this is going to turn out at all. Again, the magic of video I can always throw away or edit out things that don't work. But if it does work, I really don't want to do this over again. Okay, so 6 roses, 4 borders. Now I have 4 of these things. This is a purple and gold one. It's very dark. I have to cut this a little bit around this ace to make it lay flat. Okay. And I have this dark green one, and that looks pretty good too. And I have this dark red one. I did all the embroidery in white because these were all so dark. This is light, and I'll have to do something in black to put on the other side of this when I get to that point. Okay, so now again, I could put this on the bottom and run it up this top, or I could put one on one side and something on the other. Now the Mod Podge does stick these down. He didn't like the water-soluble stabilizer, but it looks pretty good. Let's see if that looks better on the green. Or on the purple. I think I'm going to I'm going to take the green and use the letter. I don't have the 2020 yet, but at least I can see how this works. So I'll put the letter on this one. And clean this. I have a spray adhesive, and I think I might try that just to stick it in place so I can put the Mod Podge on it. But I don't really think that would be necessary, but so I'm going to hold off on that. Let's see. Let me do this. It's easier to clean this. So I tried the Mod Podge, and I also had tried Beacon's foam poster board adhesive. I got both of these at Dollar Tree. I liked the Beacon only in that when it didn't work out right, I could peel the whole thing off. It came off like a plastic film, and throw away the embroidery and keep the bulb. So I had put something on this one, but I didn't like how it looked, so I took it off. All right, so let's try the letter A on the green. So I'm going to try this with Mod Podge. And I'm just going to put it on and paint over it. So I need to line it up where I want it. And I hope my brush is not too hard. I cleaned it out, but they don't always clean out well. Get a different brush. And I got some throwaway brushes here I'll do this with. Okay, so put this on here, line it up where I want it, hopefully in the camera. And paint it. Okay, so I want to make sure that I get it centered. So I'm trying to work this Mod Podge into the spaces, which will actually hold the fabric down. Okay, I might need to try that. This is a stiff brush. I think I might need a softer brush here. So I'm going to try this with the Mod Podge, and then I'm going to try another one with the adhesive board glue, which is a clear plasticky type of glue. I know the Beacon's Fabri-Tac would probably do it, but it's expensive glue, and I'm hoping the other beacons, the Dollar Tree beacons, works just as well. It was, I wouldn't say runnier is not the right word, but it was easier than the Beacon Fabri-Tac is the thick glue, and I've used it to put down all sorts of almost, a leather, all sorts of really weird things. That gold metallic trim on the green vestment, it's good, but it's thick, and it doesn't have a long working time. You have to work pretty fast with it. Okay, so almost there with this one. Now, because this is white and the embroidery's white and the Mod Podge is white, until it dries, I'm not going to be able to see what I've got here. It seems to be down. It also does not seem to be straight. Okay, that looks straighter. I don't think you could do that with the Beacon Fabri-Tac. It would have already been dried by this time. You couldn't move it around like that. Alright, so I'm going to let that sit and see how that works. And I'm going to try something with the other one. I've got a glass here, I'll just set it on top of that. Still have some more stuff here, so I think I'll go ahead and do one of these. Alright, so I want these to come something like that. Start up near the top, come down, leave an opening here. Don't know what I'll put in the opening. The rose is a little bit too big for it, but I can make something small. I could also slide this down further. Actually, I think I'm going to do that. So I'm holding it at the top with my fingers so it doesn't move, because it really wants to as I'm painting it. I probably could just, let me see how this works. Take this off a second. And I'm going to put it in the Mod Podge and let it get coated with that. All that fabric get coated. The threads are not picking it up too well, but the fabric is. And that doesn't surprise me because the threads are polyester. Okay, so now let's put it down. And was a lot simpler, if it works. We shall see. Okay. all I'm doing now is going around the edges of it, making sure it's all down and touching the glass. All the fabric is down and everything's touching the glass. And I'll put that one to dry. Don't know how long it will take. I have a couple empty bottles that I use to rest this in. Okay, so let's try this, a snowflake on one of these. Let's do a snowflake on this one. All right, so how about this one? All right, I'm going to try this glue. And I think I'm going to do what I did with the other one. And that is just touch it into the glue all over the place. Do it everywhere. I think so. And then just put it down. Okay, so if I can do it with my fingers, so much the better, because I can get this stuff off the fingers. It's hard to get it out of the brush. The Mod Podge washes out pretty well, but this stuff is more plasticky, and it didn't. That's why that brush got hard. Okay, so I'm going to probably have to use a brush anyway, because this is, it's down, but it needs a coat on top of it. That needs some touching up. All right, so I'll use my ruined brush. And just going around and making sure all the edges are down. If you get all the fabric down, the embroidery's, you know, attached to the fabric, so whether you get all the embroidery down doesn't matter. It's just make sure you get all the fabric down. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going around the outside of this, touching, making sure all the fabric is down in place. And if there's any bubbles, those aren't bubbles, it's just, they're glue bubbles. Okay, I think I need a little bit more, not much. It's just a few spots that are not sticking as because this glue it just isn't. That's the Mod Podge. This glue is not. These two do not mix. I've tried that. This glue is a lot like the Fabri-Tac in that you have a little bit more working time, but not as much as the Mod Podge. Or did I see another spot that had to be stuck? I think I've got it all now. Something here. You have to kind of look at it from the side to see if there's anything sticking up. This does really stick well, and it is clear, but I like the Mod Podge in that it has a longer working time, and it doesn't ruin the brushes. If I go in here with this brush now, because it's to the tacky point, this glue, and I touch it to try to push something down, it grabs the bristles of the brush and instead of pushing it down, it actually pushes up. Okay, so anyway, it looks like it's all down. All right, so this. I'll let this one dry. And this will dry much faster than the other one. And I will probably put the other snowflake on the other side of this. This is dry now, right? Oh, it's still a little tacky in a few spots, but it's actually dry. So I could go ahead and do the other side. Let's see, I want to get this Mod Podge off the plate before it runs into the. See, they don't work together. Where they touched on the plate, you can just pull up the glue. Might be a good way to clean the plate off. That glue does come up in sheets, you know, if you can get it started. It just pulls up like a plastic. Some more of this. I'm finding it easier just to get it out of the whole bottle instead of out of the point. And snowflake. This side looks nicer, so this will be the upside. Okay, I think there's the middle. One of my fingers is sticking to the piece on the other side, trying to pull it up. Get the glue off my fingers here. Alright. That's... that looks good. Make sure it's down the middle. This was not as thick as the Battenberg one on the other side, so I'll put it to dry. Okay, so this has dried. It looks pretty good. The other one has dried as well. I don't like it with the Mod Podge as much as I like it with the clear glue. This is the clear glue one. It's dried very quickly. You can hardly see. You really have to look for it if you want to look at the edges to see where the fabric is. And you could probably go in here with a X-Acto knife or something like that and cut. There's some threads here I want to get rid of, and I'll probably go with it doesn't have to be an X-Acto knife, any kind of knife or scissors or something, and cut some of these threads off, or go over them again with some glue. But this one I think turned out pretty well. So I still have to put the other side on each of these. So I'm going to do it with the other glue, not with the Mod Podge, with the foam and poster board adhesive. First of all, because it's faster. I mean, the Mod Podge one had to dry, I think, all overnight. It took forever, and it still didn't look good. It looks better this morning. I hope there's still some places where it's probably where the glue was really thick, that it has kind of a whitish sheen to it. I hope that goes away, but I wouldn't even get that problem with this clear adhesive. So I'm going to do this the same way as I did the other. Dip the embroidery in the glue and then just put it down. So, alright, so let's see here. This one's pretty. so the opposite side of this. Go down a little bit. Doing this with a dried out brush, it's not going down very well, but it's enough. That glue is hard to get out of the brush. So I recommend you use brushes you can throw away when you're finished. Each thing has its own pluses and minuses. I mean, the Mod Podge is easier to clean up, but it takes a lot longer to dry. And this goes on clear and it goes on white. But again, it does dry clear, you just have to wait for it to dry. The embroideries are pretty thick, so you have to use a thick layer of the Mod Podge, which is why it takes so long to dry, and then also why it kind of looks not clear, what's the word? White. So I think I have this down. I'm looking for places where it's from the side, you can see if it's high. My glue is drying, so I can't do much more with this unless I put new stuff down. As I say, I think this is kind of like the Beacons Fabri-Tac. It has a little bit longer working time. At least it seems to me to do that. I could be wrong. Alright, so I have it on both sides, and now I'm looking at it and I see that it is higher on this side than on this side, and there's no way I can move that. Now if I had done it with the Mod Podge, that would not be a problem. You can reposition the Mod Podge very easily. It's only on the other side. So anyway, we'll leave that dry for a few minutes just to set up. And on this one, I think I'm going to put a rose on the other side here. Okay, I'm going to trim this in a little bit more. And at least cut slits so that the fabric will bend more to the glass if it's the same as when you sew, you clip the curves so it bends. So I'm clipping in the fabric in a few places between the leaves and the roses. And alright, let's see. That's Mod Podge. Did that yesterday too. Okay, I am going to have a mess with this plate. Probably should have used a paper plate. But I didn't have any problem getting the glue off the day before, so I figured it wouldn't have, but I put it on pretty thick yesterday. All right, so just laying it in the glue, pressing it down, and just going to put it right on here. Okay, there's a few places where I didn't put enough glue, so put some more now. Mostly around the edges. I got plenty on the cross stitch parts, but the fabric at the edges I didn't push into the glue. So they're kind of high. I hope I don't keep going out of camera. I'm working in a different room with on a different table, and I'm trying to get a closer look at the job, so I'm not sure if I'm always in the camera. I think I got it now. So there's the rose. I'll come back later and get some of this glue off of here. Just scraping it with probably the edge of a scissors or a blade or something will bring most of it off. And this should dry quickly. It's at the tacky point right now. So I will. And so we have, now these I'd like to put something in the spaces, and it's probably going to be these roses. I can put a rose in between these two. It's not going to fit in this space here, but it will fit in this space, in the space between them. So, don't know how much glue I've still got on this plate. Probably not enough. And enough to make it tacky, but not much else. Some more glue down. I didn't clip between the curves on that one, so it's kind of wants to bubble a little bit. I think it'll work. I'm using the brush handle to push it down because there's glue on the bristles and they want to pull it up more than push it down. But it's working, so let me try put a little bit more glue here. I'm going to have to come in and clean this up a little bit. It seems to be coming right off. Okay, so that's this side. And then do the same thing with the other side. I'll put a rose on this side as well. Better clipped. Using a brush handle like a rolling pin seems to work. All right. This place right here at the top. It needs a little bit of glue. And it may not be straight, but looks nice. So I let it dry, and then I'll clean it up a little bit. And then show you what it looks like. Okay. Well, here's the results of my experiment of putting embroidery on glass. I learned a lot of things. Doing it on the chiffon was very helpful. So it's best not to do it on a water-soluble stabilizer. Some kind of light fabric net would have worked. The chiffon makes it clearer. As far as glues are concerned, I would use Mod Podge if it was the first time, because you can reposition it. It cleans up easier. Once you become more comfortable with it, then maybe move to the other adhesive. The other adhesive dried easier, it dried faster, but it made it impossible to reposition something. You had to really put it down where you wanted it the first time. Clean up with the Mod Podge was easier, but it wasn't that difficult with the plastic adhesive. However, I would use a paper plate with that. I didn't have problems getting it off of the ceramic plate. It did scrape off, but you could just throw it away. As far as brushes are concerned, I would use throwaway brushes or popsicle sticks. Then the final result has a nice texture to it because the embroidery is raised up from the glass. It feels nice. It does look like it's embroidered on the glass. Oh, I did use the X-Acto knife and clean up. With the straight edge of it, I could cut in close around the embroidery and cut off some of the fabric if there was too much there, and also scrape it with the blade. Took off either Mod Podge or the plastic glue. The glass cleaned up very nicely with that. If you want to know what I used to paint the insides of it, I simply dumped into the globes some with the one with the butterfly. I pushed in some colored tissue paper and then put in some white glue and used a brush to smear it around and push it to the sides of the glass. And I also threw in some embroidery threads. With the others, I painted the inside, simply dumping in some inks or acrylic paint and just swirling them around so they mixed inside, and then dumping out the excess. And I also put some threads in there. The threads stop the paints from mixing entirely, and they also kind of push the threads up to the paint pushed the threads up to the glass and gave it kind of a crackle effect. But it really doesn't matter what you do to get to the inside. And one globe I left entirely empty and simply put in some fake snowflakes and threads, and that looked nice as well. So it was a nice experiment. Will I ever do it again? Well, probably not. I just like to fool around with things and see what can happen. Especially like to see what I can do with embroidery that hasn't been done before. So, but I saw from Dollar Tree the other day, they had some plastic glass globes too for $1. And I think this would work just as well on those. So you might want to try it.